My fiancé's family pressured me for a prenup, so I added a surprising clause they didn't expect. 31 male, have been with my fiancé for 3 years. We got engaged 6 months ago and the wedding is supposed to be in 4 months. I say supposed to be because after what happened yesterday, I honestly don't know if there's going to be a wedding at all. Some background. I'm a software engineer. I make good money, not wealthy, but comfortable, around $145K a year. I own my condo outright because I got lucky with some stock options from a startup I worked at in my 20s. I have about $280 in retirement accounts and another $90K in savings and investments. For a 31-year-old, I'm doing pretty well. My fiancé works in marketing. She makes around $65K. She has some student loan debt still, about $30K. She doesn't own property. Her finances are fine, but definitely not as secure as mine. Her family is wealthy. Like actually wealthy. Her father owns a chain of car dealerships across the region. Her mother hasn't worked in 30 years. They live in a massive house, drive luxury cars, vacation in Europe every summer. You get the picture. Here's the thing though. Despite their wealth, they've always treated me like I'm somehow beneath them. Not good enough for their precious daughter. Her father has made comments about how I'm just an employee, while he's a business owner. Her mother once asked if I was sure I could afford the ring I bought. The ring was $8,000. I paid cash, didn't finance a penny. 2 months ago, her father called me into his study during a family dinner. Very formal, very serious. He sat behind his desk like we were in a job interview and said that before the wedding could proceed, I would need to sign a prenuptial agreement. I actually wasn't opposed to this. Prenups make sense. They protect both parties. I said I'd be happy to review one. Then I saw the document. It was 12 pages long. Their family lawyer had drafted it. And it was completely one-sided. The highlights. Any assets I brought into the marriage would become marital property. After 5 years. Any increase in my retirement accounts during the marriage would be split 50-50 in a divorce, regardless of who filed. If we divorced, I would be responsible for paying off any of her remaining student loans. I would pay alimony based on lifestyle maintenance. If she chose to reduce her working hours after having children, her inheritance from her parents would remain 100% protected and separate forever. Any gifts from her family during the marriage would remain her separate property. But here's the kicker. There was absolutely nothing protecting my assets. Nothing about what happens if she cheats. Nothing about her behavior at all. It was entirely designed to funnel my money to her while protecting everything on their side. I asked her father why the agreement was so one-sided. He looked at me like I was slow. Because you have more to lose. This protects my daughter. From what exactly? From ending up with nothing if things don't work out. And what protects me? He actually laughed. You're a man, you'll be fine. Men always land on their feet. I took the document home and showed it to my fiancée. I expected her to be horrified, to take my side, to tell her father this was ridiculous. Instead, she said, I mean, it does seem fair to me. You make more money, and my parents just want to make sure I'm taken care of. That was the first crack. I hired my own lawyer. Cost me $400 for the consultation alone. Told him I wanted to negotiate a fair prenup, not reject the concept entirely. He reviewed their document and literally laughed out loud. This wouldn't hold up in court, he said. It's so one-sided, a judge would likely void it. But more importantly, do you really want to marry into a family that thinks this is acceptable? Good question. My lawyer drafted a counterproposal. It was actually fair. It protected both of our premarital assets equally. It had reasonable provisions for alimony. It addressed what would happen in various scenarios, including job loss, disability, and children. And yes, I added an infidelity clause. The clause stated that if either party engaged in infidelity during the marriage, they would forfeit their claim to 75% of the marital assets they would otherwise be entitled to, plus pay the other party $50,000 in damages. Either party. It applied to both of us, completely equal. We scheduled a meeting at her family's lawyer's office to review both documents. Her father insisted on being there. Her mother came too, dressed like she was attending a society luncheon. My fiancée sat next to me, but somehow it felt like she was on their side of the table. The lawyer went through my counter-proposal point by point. Her father was nodding along, looking smug, probably thinking he could pressure me into abandoning most of it. Then the lawyer got to the infidelity clause. He read it out loud. In the event that either party engages in marital infidelity, defined as romantic or sexual relations with a person outside the marriage, the offending party shall forfeit 75% of their marital asset claim and pay the non-offending party $50,000 in damages. Her father's face went from smug to confused to something I can only describe as panicked. That's not standard," he stammered. "Actually, infidelity clauses are increasingly common in prenuptial agreements," my lawyer said calmly. Her mother jumped in. "This is outrageous. You're accusing our daughter of being a cheater before you're even married." "I'm not accusing anyone of anything. The clause applies to both of us equally. If I cheat, I pay her. If she cheats, she pays me. Fair is fair." My fiancée was staring at the table. Not at me. Not at her parents. Just at the table. Her father stood up so fast his chair scraped against the floor. "We're not signing this. This is insulting to our family." "Then, I guess there's no prenup," I said. "Which means there's no wedding, because you made the prenup a condition of the wedding, remember?" The room went silent. My fiancée finally looked at me. "Can we talk privately?" We stepped into the hallway. "Why would you put that in there?" she asked. "Why wouldn't I? You want me to protect you financially. I want to protect myself from betrayal. Both are reasonable. But it makes it seem like you don't trust me." "Your father's prenup made it seem like you don't trust me. Actually, it made it seem like you expect me to fail. Where was your concern about trust then?" She didn't have an answer. We went back into the room. Her father had apparently been conferring with the lawyer because he immediately said, "We need time to review this. We'll reconvene next week." That was yesterday. My fiancée barely spoke to me on the drive home. She went to bed early. This morning she left for work without saying goodbye. Her mother has already texted me 3 times, calling me controlling and paranoid and saying I've shown my true colors. I don't know what's going to happen. Part of me thinks this is the end. Part of me thinks this was a necessary test that revealed something important. What I do know is that I'm not signing their one-sided agreement. And I'm not removing the infidelity clause from mine. If that makes me the bad guy, so be it. Update 6 days later. So a lot has happened since my original post. Thank you to everyone who said I wasn't crazy. I needed that validation more than you know. The day after I posted, my fiancé came home from work and we had a real conversation. Not an argument, an actual adult conversation for once. She admitted that she hadn't really read her father's prenup before they presented it to me. She just trusted that it was standard. When I showed her specific clauses and explained how one-sided they were, she seemed genuinely surprised. "I didn't realize it was that bad," she said. "My dad said it was just to protect both of us." "Did you read the part where my condo becomes marital property after 5 years, but your inheritance stays protected forever?" She hadn't. We talked for hours. By the end, she agreed that her father's prenup was unfair and that my counterproposal was actually reasonable. She said she'd talk to her parents and get them to calm down. I thought things were looking up. Then her father got involved again. Instead of calling me directly like a normal person, he went behind my back. He started calling my parents, telling them that I was being difficult and sabotaging the wedding and that I had trust issues that were going to ruin their daughter's life. My mom called me confused and worried. "Is everything okay?" Her father said, "You're refusing to sign legal documents and threatening to call off the wedding?" I had to explain the entire situation from scratch. My mom, bless her, immediately understood. "So he wants you to sign something that only protects her, and when you asked for equal protection, suddenly you're the problem?" Exactly. But her father wasn't done. He showed up at my condo, unannounced, on a Tuesday evening. Just rang the doorbell like we were old golf buddies. My fiancé wasn't home yet. It was just him and me. "I think we got off on the wrong foot," he said, trying to sound friendly. "I think you tried to get me to sign a document that would have financially destroyed me in a divorce." "That's not. Look, I'm just trying to protect my daughter." "From me specifically? What exactly do you think I'm going to do to her?" He didn't have a good answer for that. He stumbled over some words about just in case. And you never know what happens, and planning for the worst. Then he made an offer. What if we remove some of the clauses you objected to? We can make it more balanced. But you have to remove that infidelity thing. It's offensive to my family. Why? What do you mean why? It implies my daughter would cheat. It implies either of us could cheat. I'd be bound by the same clause. But you're a man. It's different. I actually laughed. How is it different? Because, he trailed off, because you think it's more likely she'll cheat than I will? His face went red. That's not what I said. Then why does the clause only bother you in one direction? He left shortly after that. Didn't get what he wanted. But here's where it gets interesting. That night, my fiancée came home acting weird. Jumpy. Kept checking her phone every few minutes. When I asked about her day, she gave one-word answers. I didn't snoop on her phone. I want to make that clear. But I did notice something. She'd been texting someone constantly. Every few minutes, her phone would light up. And every time it did, she'd angle the screen away from me. We'd been together 3 years. She'd never done that before. I decided to do something I'm not proud of. I pretended to fall asleep on the couch while watching TV. Around midnight, she went to the bathroom and left her phone on the charger in the bedroom. I looked. The messages were with her college roommate. Someone I'd met maybe twice at group dinners. The conversation was mostly venting about me, about the prenup situation, about how stressed she was. But there was one exchange that made my blood run cold. Her roommate, "Have you told him about what happened last year?" My fiancé, "No. And he can never find out. That's why my dad is so freaked out about the infidelity clause." Her roommate, "That's why?" Girl, my fiancé, "It was one time, and we weren't engaged yet. It doesn't count." Her roommate, "If it doesn't count, why are you so scared of him finding out?" My fiancé, "Because he'd leave me, and my dad would kill me for blowing this." I put the phone back exactly where I found it. I went back to the couch. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. The next morning I acted completely normal. I needed time to think. So let me get this straight. Her father pushed an aggressive one-sided prenup. He freaked out specifically about the infidelity clause. And apparently something happened last year that would make that clause very relevant. I don't have proof of anything concrete, just a text conversation that could mean several things. But combined with her father's bizarre insistence that the infidelity clause was offensive, it paints a picture I don't like. I've contacted my lawyer again. I'm not confronting anyone yet. I need more information before I blow up my entire life. But I'm starting to think the prenup drama was never about protecting her from me. It was about protecting her from the consequences of something she already did. More updates when I have them. Update 2, 8 days later. Alright, here's everything. It's been over a week of hell, but I finally have the full picture, and this chapter is closed. After seeing those texts, I knew I needed more information before making any moves. I couldn't just accuse my fiancé of cheating based on a vague message about what happened last year. So I did some digging. Not proud of all of it, but here we are. First, I casually asked my fiancé about that time frame. "Hey, remember last spring when you went to that conference in March? That was right before my birthday. Right?" She got tense immediately. "Yeah, why?" "Just trying to remember the timeline of things. Feels like so long ago." It was boring. Nothing memorable happened. Okay, I remembered that conference. She'd been gone for 4 days. She came back acting distant for about 2 weeks afterward. At the time, I thought she was just tired from travel and readjusting. Now I was reconsidering every detail. Here's what I did next. I reached out to the college roommate directly. We're connected on social media from when my fiancé added everyone at her birthday 2 years ago. I sent her a casual message saying I was planning a surprise party for my fiancé's upcoming birthday and wanted to make sure I didn't schedule it during any times she might be traveling for work. Totally innocent question. Her response told me everything I needed to know. "Oh, that's so sweet. She's been so stressed about the wedding stuff lately. After everything that happened at that conference last year, she deserves something nice." After everything that happened at the conference, I pressed a little. "Yeah, she mentioned that trip was rough. Work drama?" Lol, no, it wasn't work drama. I can't believe she told you about that though. She didn't really give details. Yeah, well, it was a whole thing. Her ex showing up at the same hotel, them catching up all weekend. I told her she should have never gone to his room, but you know how she is when she's been drinking. Anyway, I'm sure that's all ancient history now since you guys worked through it. I didn't respond after that. So, my fiancée cheated on me at a conference with her ex all weekend, and her father knew about it. That's why he was so adamant about the infidelity clause being removed. He knew that if we got married and I ever found out, I'd have legal recourse to protect myself. The entire prenup ambush wasn't about protecting her financially. It was about making sure I couldn't touch their precious money if I discovered what she did and divorced her for it. I sat with this information for 2 days. Didn't confront anyone. Didn't change my behavior. Just processed and planned. Then I made my move. I contacted my lawyer and told him everything. He said the prenup was basically dead anyway since they refused to sign my version, but that I should document everything in case the relationship ended badly and they tried to come after me for anything. I scheduled another meeting at the family lawyer's office. Told my fiancée it was to work things out and find a compromise everyone could live with. She seemed relieved. Her father was practically giddy when he heard. The meeting was 3 days ago. We sat in the same conference room as before. Her parents, her, me, both lawyers. Same seating arrangement. Her father had this satisfied look like he'd finally won. He started immediately. I'm glad you came to your senses. My lawyer has prepared a revised version that should work for everyone. The new prenup had removed some of the more egregious clauses, but still didn't have an infidelity provision. Still one-sided? Just less obviously so. I let the lawyer read through the whole thing. All 12 pages of the revised version. When he finished, everyone looked at me expectantly. Before I respond to this, I said calmly, I have a question. Of course, her father said, all smiles now. What happened at the conference last March? The room went dead silent. My fiancé's face drained of color. Her mother's smile froze. Her father's eyes went wide. I don't know what you're talking about, my fiancé said quickly. Really? Because your college roommate seemed to think it was common knowledge. Something about your ex showing up at the same hotel? You spending the weekend in his room? Ringing any bells? Her father stood up. This meeting is over. No, I think this meeting is just getting started. I stayed seated, completely calm. See, I finally understand why you were so desperate to get that infidelity clause removed. It wasn't about protecting your daughter's dignity. It was about protecting her from the consequences of something she already did. My fiancé started crying. It was one time. We weren't even engaged yet. I was going to tell you eventually. When exactly? After we were married? After you had legal access to half my assets, regardless of what you'd done. It didn't mean anything. Then why hide it for over a year? Why have your father draft a prenup specifically designed to shield you from being held accountable for infidelity? Her father jumped in. Now wait just a minute. I didn't know about any of that when I drafted the prenup. Your daughter literally texted her friend saying my dad is freaked out about the infidelity clause because of what happened. So either you're lying right now or she was lying to her friend. Which one is it? They looked at each other. Neither spoke. Here's what's gonna happen, I said, standing up. There is no wedding, there is no prenup, there is no us. We're done. My fiancé grabbed my arm. Please, we can work through this. Couples survive infidelity all the time. Couples who are honest with each other might. But you weren't honest, you actively hid it from me for over a year. Your whole family helped hide it. You manipulated me while I planned a future with someone who didn't exist. Her mother finally spoke. You're throwing away 3 years over one mistake? I'm walking away from people who think it's acceptable to deceive me and then draft legal documents to protect themselves from the deception. That's not a mistake. That's a strategy. I headed for the door. Her father tried one last thing. If you walk out of here, you're making an enemy. I know a lot of people in this area, business owners, lawyers, people who can make your life very difficult. I turned back to face him. You're threatening me? Right now? After everything your family just put me through? I'm just saying, think about what you're doing. I've thought about it plenty. Good luck explaining to your business associates why your daughter's engagement ended. I'm sure she cheated and we tried to cover it up with a predatory prenup. We'll play great at the country club." His face turned purple, but he didn't say anything else. I walked out. My now ex-fiancée has called me probably 35 times since then. I haven't answered once. Her texts have ranged from apologetic to angry to desperate and back again. "You're ruining my life over ancient history. It was before we were engaged, technically. You were barely paying attention to me back then anyway, so maybe it's your fault. My father's going to make you regret this. Please, can we just talk? I love you." Classic. Somehow it's still my fault, even though she's the one who cheated and lied about it for over a year. Her mother sent a long email about how I'm giving up on love over pride, and how every relationship has secrets, and how I'll regret this when you're alone at 40. I don't think I will. Here's where things stand now. I'm out. Completely. I called the venue and canceled my half of the deposits. Lost about $3,000, but honestly worth every penny. I've told my family the whole truth, and they're completely supportive. My mom said she never liked the way her father looked at me anyway. My dad said he's proud of me for having self-respect. My lawyer is keeping everything documented in case her father actually tries to follow through on his threats. So far, it's been quiet on that front. Probably because he knows he has no leg to stand on, and any public fight would just spread the real story further. I'm not going to pretend I'm fine. 3 years is a long time. I thought I was going to marry this woman. I thought her family would become my family. I had imagined holidays and kids and growing old together, but I'd rather be alone than be with someone who lies to my face while their father drafts contracts to protect the lie. The irony is her father was right about one thing. I did need protection going into this marriage, just not from divorce, from them. To anyone reading this who's dealing with something similar, trust your gut. If someone's family is pushing an unfair agreement, ask yourself why. And if they freak out when you ask for equal terms, there's probably a reason they don't want you to have them. Thanks for following along. I'm gonna be okay. Eventually.